we're just kibitzing.
Well, yeah, but not about, we don't want to like
Afternoon.
spoiler alert.
But I went through different sections of it for
Right.
clarification.
Oh, look, we're on live already.
Look at that.
Hey!
Magic.
Thank you, Julio.
Magical. Magical. And
See, we
honestly,
give Julio credit and we also give him a hard
Yeah,
time.
sometimes.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a little of both.
And we have closed captioning today, and I think it looks a little bit clearer. I don't know what's up with that.
Who knows?
Maybe it's the snow.
Maybe it's my glasses. I'm not sure. Could be.
Or your eyes will work. Things
My
will
eyes are
clearer.
working today. Could be. Announcements then, sir?
Announcement this Sunday, I believe we're gonna wrap up the Super Bowl Sunday, and we're also gonna do the blessing of the prayer shawls, so they'll be out for people to see. We'll do that, and then there'll be,
So you can still bring soup?
you can still bring soup. There's a bunch out in the hallway I saw, so.
Yep. Yeah.
But yeah, I think we're well on our way to beating the 300 that the challenge was set up for us.
Yeah, I feel really sad for FAC because they had a snow day, and then they
Right.
had a COVID scare, and so they've been closed for, out of 3 weeks, they'll only have had 1 day.
Yeah, so we crushed FEC.
Yeah, so, you know.
In a loving
We
way.
can
In a
always
loving
just
way.
challenge them for another one later.
Yeah,
later
for
on.
sure.
I don't know.
Well,
It's always
they could still bring their 300. The food bank would
They
still
would.
like
That's
that.
right.
still, yes, indeed.
So we have that this Sunday,
Mhm.
and then on Wednesday, we have Ash Wednesday,
Right.
which is the beginning of Lent. And we're going to be doing a couple of different things. We will be doing the imposition of ashes in a different kind of way this time. So if you're, remember the communion cups that we use, we're going to put a little smear of ash in those cups.
It's from New York.
Schmear. I need a schmear on my bagel.
No, it's not for the big
Oh yes.
If you eat that on a bagel, you're going to regret it.
Not the ashes, obviously. But we're going to do drive-through ashes at 5 o'clock. So you'll come in to the church driveway off of Fulton, come around the back of the church, and I will be standing towards the front of the driveway, waiting for you to arrive, where I will give you your cup of ashes, and then we'll say the words, "Remember you are dust, and to dust you shall return." And then you or the family, while the car's in park, will be able to give, if there's two in the car, we'll be able to give the cross on the forehead if that's what you desire, or you can do it for yourself. That way we're adhering
Staying
to
in
our
our
protocols. Yeah.
Staying in our bubbles, yes.
And then for in-person worship that evening, the ashes will be available to you when you come into the church. So pick up a cup and take it with you to your seat with you. And then at the appropriate time during the service, we'll do the same thing. And then the flight attendant will be by with a bag to pick up your empty cup at the end of that little piece of the ceremony. So there will be no fuss, no muss, and we're good to go.
And we're still live streaming that service, so
We are.
you can still virtually worship.
And there will
All
be
for Lent.
communion. There will be communion.
Don't mix
Wednesday
up the
night.
cups.
We'll try not to. You should be able to.
Pick up.
Just saying.
Just saying.
But
Yeah.
do you have any announcements?
Nope, those were mine on my sticky notes. Was
See?
the soup collection and Ash Wednesday. So good job.
Yay!
We are still having the blood drive tomorrow.
Yes.
If you have not signed up and would like to donate, that's awesome. We still have some appointments available. Or if you want to volunteer, I think we still have some
We
slots.
could still use some
For a couple
volunteers.
volunteers to help check in the
Yeah,
donors.
it's-
It's pretty easy. But we have, probably more towards the afternoon is when we would need.
Yeah,
some more
especially towards
assistance.
the end when we're cleaning up, so that
Belinda's passed out because she
Yeah,
tends to
Belinda-
black out when she donates,
Belinda-
but it's okay.
She's planned that the last 2 times where it's like,
No, the first time I did it in the middle of the day,
and still didn't come
and
back.
I did too come back and finish, but the last time I was like one of the last
Yeah.
appointments, and it was even worse than the first time.
Right,
But I'm gonna try laying flat this time,
yeah.
like they suggested last time when I was going in and out of consciousness.
So,
It's fine.
our driveway is clear, the parking lot's clear, sidewalks are clear, so we're good to
Sky's
go.
clear,
Skies.
sky's clear.
The sky is clear, yeah, I didn't see the sun yet, though.
No.
Saw a bald eagle last night on my walk, though, pretty cool.
That's cool.
Yeah.
All right. Are we ready to talk about our
I guess we are,
actual
our topic for
topic
today.
for today?
I'm just happy that our technology's working.
I know, it's very exciting.
Technology's great.
We have Betsy
Today.
with us, and Sue, and Keith, and Deb, and a few who have chosen to remain nameless, but we have 8 people on with us, so.
And I
Good
will,
afternoon, thanks for coming at the new time.
remind you that we do welcome your comments, questions, or however you'd like to interact with us.
Whatever.
What'd you say?
Banter.
Banter, yeah, because I think we do pretty good at that.
Yeah,
So that's really what we'd like to have with these discussions, is to be able to have you interact with us. And this social statements, I don't know, it's a little, first of all, it's very heady. It's full of stuff because it's 73 pages long.
well, you wanna introduce which one we're talking about?
I could.
That would be a good start.
Should I educate them on what we're talking
You
about?
should.
So this is the social statement on education. It's our calling in education from the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America. And I think the 3 of us, when we first looked at it, we were like, oh my, you know,
Yeah, I was a little surprised by the length and breadth of it.
yeah,
I did read 42 pages of it, I have to say, and it's good information and it's very detailed.
yeah.
So when we hit the broad strokes here, if you really want to dig into it, go right ahead.
Yeah, it's available on the ELCA website. You can download it in English or Spanish.
Yeah, and you can just Google it if you want, or you can go to our St. Paul's Facebook page on the resources tab. Just click the tab, not in the drop-down box, but just click the tab, and it'll take you to the link that will take you to all of the social statements.
Yep.
So we have a 3, and if you don't feel like reading 72 pages, as I didn't really feel like reading 72 pages, they have some lovely summaries, including an article that I think was in Living Lutheran.
I think
that did a really good job of covering it as
it
well.
was Lutheran Women Today.
Lutheran Women Today, one of those Lutheran magazines.
Yeah, one of those. Yeah, and that one was, it lists basically at the beginning of it what the main points of the statement are, which then if that's something that interests you, you could go to that particular location in the thing. But this was more of a, I think, a writing about, it was kind of, I don't know, a Cliff Notes maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know, I never cheated and used.
So you should be able to get a solid C for grade.
Solid C.
Use this instead
You
of the
get
detailed
you
version.
get the general idea
Right.
without spending more than 7 minutes.
Well, it took me more than 7 minutes to
Yeah,
read
you're not going
this.
to get the honor roll, but you're not going to flunk.
You're not going to be the valedictorian, but
So,
but I think one of the most important topics of both of these, as I was reading, was really about Luther advocating not only for the education of boys but for girls, and then also, as with our small catechism, that this faith education takes place in a house, takes place at home. That's the responsibility of a parent, was to make sure that your child was educated in the ways of the church and to live in a moral society. And that's really, I think, a lot of what this does, but it also spells out that the church is like your support group, your teacher's aide, so to speak. Yeah?
But not only advocating for men and women to be educated, there's also rich and poor and everybody in between. And it was everybody's responsibility to be educated too.
Well, that was from Luther. Luther really, said, you as the head of household, and back in the 1500s, it was the male figurehead in the house. He was responsible for not only teaching, his family, but also teaching those who worked for him. So, I mean, I think we've talked about how we're to be in community, and that's a perfect example right there. By sharing that knowledge, by, educating those who may not, like you said, Russ, be at the status level of the homeowner, whereas that gave them the opportunity to learn, which is exactly why Luther, translated the Bible into German, so that everybody had access.
All right, and I thought if you read into the text, they get into how, besides being the head of household teaching, you also learn from the people you're teaching.
Sure.
Because they have different perspectives and different experiences, and that the knowledge really needs to stack on each other. You don't want the next generation to start over from scratch and have to learn things the hard way. Things that you've learned as you've grown, you pass on so that knowledge can stack.
Right, absolutely.
I wrote learning as you teach, which I found to be true. The more I teach something, the more I learn from it. I don't know if you took that from the confirmation curriculum, but I always learned something. No matter how many times we did that confirmation curriculum, there's always something new, a different perspective. Either the kids brought another, question, and you're like, oh, I don't know, we haven't talked about that. Let's figure it out
We
together.
can say it was Tori.
Yeah,
Tori always brought a new question.
Tori had some questions, so she'll be the ones giving answers in the future.
That's
that'll
right.
be
I can't wait to sit in on her Bible study.
fun.
But
that was an evil laugh.
but this social statement here is really broken down into two different categories. It breaks it down into, teaching towards the Christian faith, and then what your vocation is in the world. So, we talk a lot about pastors being called, but you two have been called to do different things too. I mean, and
Different times.
at different times, right?
Is sarcasm really a column?
For some it is. For some some despise it though.
It's a gift.
It is a gift. But look at me. My first vocation or my first calling was being in law enforcement, and I did that for 30 years, and then my calling changed to do this. But this is what this education piece is to bolster that so that you can be a part of, I don't want to say both worlds, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, and I think they do describe it as two worlds in this. But they also say that you should learn on the faith side, and you should also learn on the natural sciences and the regular, I don't know if you want to call it.
Science, technology.
Yeah.
Normal educational things that people
Secular.
who aren't churched would expect to learn in school.
And I thought that was one of the things, and I really don't want to skip around, but I thought that was one of the things that was interesting in this, was how the statement talked about faith in school, right?
Mm-hmm.
That, well, yes, you can't officially pray in school, but we all know that people pray in school. And, there's different ways to do that, and you can have, different opportunities to do that, but it's more about, you know, what this statement is advocating for is the school to provide a moral base for people.
And for the church to support the school
Correct.
in doing that.
That's right.
And supporting the school in your community, you know, not just the national school, but, you know, every congregation has the responsibility to support the schools in their community to make sure there's, you know, equal opportunities for everyone.
Sure, and I know,
As well.
and I don't know where people stand on this, but I know a big organization within the schools, and it's not just at, you know, the high school level, it's at the college level too. It's the Fellowship of Christian Athletes, where it's a group that comes together to study and understand the word and how that reflects on their sport and how that reflects on their interaction in the world. And it's all about, again, putting those two worlds together.
Well, and they also go into, later on, this jumping around thing, how those things are included in education. Athletics, band, art, all these things are considered education, and they're all beneficial. And so besides just learning science, math, you know, those kind of things, these other things should be available and taught as well.
Yeah, and I've said this 100 times, if I've said it once. I think, you know, by being in sports or being in clubs, whatever, that gives you different opportunities to find your way, to be able to, you know, I'm not a big fan of the everyone gets a trophy world, because I think, you know, we've gotten to the point where some kids who rely on that or don't learn how to function if something goes wrong, you know, and I think that's a big part of education too.
But see, that's where I go back to Luther's, that really starts in the home.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
how a participation trophy or ribbon is interpreted is not solely on the responsibility of the school or the organization. It's really in the home that you have to help process all of those things as well. Not
Yeah.
to pick on anyone, but I'm just saying.
But
You gotta go back to putting some responsibility on the parents
Absolutely,
as well.
and
All that's addressed in this document.
All of that's
in
addressed in
detail.
72, that's why it's 72 pages, there is a lot
there is.
to go over.
I mean, I can
Because there's a
remember.
lot of responsibility that's put on the home, but also the school and the church and everything to support them, especially if you know somebody who is having trouble doing it, to help them
Right,
accomplish those things.
yeah, absolutely.
A rising tide lifts all boats.
Exactly. So do we want to go in order of this
Sure,
summary?
which one are you looking at?
I'm just in the regular one.
Yeah.
What do you got over there? All 72 pages,
Yeah, what do you
Russ?
got, Russ?
I got a couple of notes, but like baptismal vocation, they start out with that.
Yep. Well, that's
And
right at the beginning.
I don't know if we hit on what that exactly is.
So your baptismal vocation, it's really, it's how you're called to be in the church. You know, if you think back on the words of your baptism, you know, you're called to educate, to make sure that they're grown up in the faith of the church, to do this, to do that. And it highlights the supporting role of not only parents, not only the sponsors of the children, but the whole church as a community, to build that up and make sure that
We're all fulfilling our baptismal promise.
we're all equipped to do that.
Any other words we need to define?
No, and I think, you know, for the big one right here, where it says, affirms the essential role of parents and congregations in faith formation of young people and urges revitalization of the baptismal commitment to educate in faith for vocation, a commitment that continues throughout life.
Mhm.
You never stop learning. And you never,
Hopefully.
I mean, I like to use the phrase, you learn something new every day, because if you don't, then you're not moving forward. You know, even if it's,
I hope to learn a couple things a day, because so far I've only learned that I wasn't supposed to use a particular emoji. So I hope I learned something else today.
Small steps.
I hope I learned something else today.
I think that's important for us, and it's important for us to be the ones who are supporting that growth
Right.
and fostering that continued learning.
Yeah, so there's a couple points under that statement that kind of.
Would you like to go through those?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, go ahead.
Let's. So the statement calls on Christians throughout their lives to assume personal responsibility to grow in their faith by. So, we're asking people to continue to learn and grow, and this is how the statement says we should do that. Deepening their relationship with God through worship and prayer. I don't know, do we need to expand on that one? It's pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
I think that's an important thing for where that's how we have our conversations with God.
Yeah.
You know, we come to worship, we're nourished with the Word, and then when we let that percolate and grow within us, then we have that prayer where it allows us to expand a different and a deeper relationship with God. And that's really what our prayer life should be, is how are we educating ourselves or educating those around us to be deeper in love with God.
Anything else? Check. Okay.
Check.
All right, the second one is maturing in their knowledge of the Bible and the church's doctrines.
We might be doing some of that.
I
think
know, I
we
feel like
are.
when I read that, I was like, oh, look, the gathering at the table, that's what we've been doing, going through those church's doctrines.
And I think it's one thing that I really never did before. I never.
Well, yeah, I haven't gone through the statements.
Right.
We've gone through, I mean, like even last year when we were going through.
The Lord's Prayer,
Lord's
the
Prayer,
Creed, all the
all of
definitions.
those, yeah. We touched on those before, but never in that depth, I don't think. And I love that we can record it and use it as a resource.
Yeah, and I think that's a great thing for us to use, especially like for potential new members.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, you have a question about this? Well, go look at this and look at these three knuckleheads talking about it. And
This is
see.
what Luther says, and these three stooges here telling you all about it.
Well, also with, Bible stories, depending on where you are in your life, you'll get different things out of it. And then if you go into the historical aspect of it, you go, oh, I thought that meant something else, and it doesn't even mean relatively close to that.
Well, I mean, I've told you guys before about me being in seminary class and me writing a whole paper on this, and the professor going, yeah, I don't think so.
Try again. But it meant that to you. And that doesn't mean that that's wrong, because the Spirit could have been bringing that message to you in that way.
And that's exactly the way I look at it. It's, when I had my final interview with my advisor,
There we go.
and it turned out that it was with the president of the seminary at the time too. That was my exact words. They're like, well, you wrote this, and you said this, and you said that, and the other thing, and I said, hey, that's the way the Spirit spoke to me, and that's the way I felt delivering it out. And they were like, huh.
But lest we misuse the scripture, it still
Yes.
needs to come back around to the central theme of God is love. Jesus
Oh, absolutely.
is,
No, and
our salvation and Redeemer. Because some people in recent newscasts
yeah.
have been using scripture in a not
It-
loving way.
It wasn't that it was more, and go figure, it was more of a law than gospel type thing.
Right.
And, look at my background. And it's taken me some time to grow in that, to, kind of,
Change your perspective to not in the law.
well, no, still be in the law, but also be able to share more of the gospel, you know, more, be able to talk about the law, but then balance that out with the love of the
The
gospel.
grace of the gospel.
So writing more warnings than citations.
Oh, wow.
That was a good one.
You're welcome.
Check.
Yeah. Okay, moving on, because we're only on the third one here of these bullet points.
We might make those 72 pages.
Yes.
We might.
I think we might definitely need 2 weeks of this.
We might,
Even
yeah.
though, so learning by doing, practicing their faith in daily living, service, and justice.
So absolutely, I mean,
I always do better when
I
I
know,
listen in, you know, I can act out the lesson.
I know you have your daily devotions and you
I
know,
do.
you have your study and I'm not quite sure what you do,
Me neither.
but like for me, first thing I do in the morning, I wake up and I don't let my feet hit the floor before I added another prayer.
Oh,
So I say the Jesus prayer.
it's the snooze. He just doesn't
No.
want to get out of bed.
I don't even use an alarm clock. Lord's
Does
Prayer.
Sue elbow you?
She's like, why are you still in bed?
I'm praying, leave me alone. You're just sleeping.
And then I use this one, Holy Lord, speak to me your truth.
Hmm.
And I saw that, I don't know where I saw that, it might have been in one of my devotions that I read. And that really kind of spoke to me. So I do that, and then I have 2 other devotions that I get, that once I get into my emails, because I have them delivered to me, I read those and I kind of percolate through those as well. But, you know, that's kind of when you set time aside, and I'm sure you have a particular time to,
It's usually the
Try.
morning before everything gets
before I
crazy,
start
but,
calling you.
Yeah.
And what I used to do, and I don't commute anymore, but I would have to commute first thing in the morning, you know, dark. And I had sort of a prayer mantra that I would do when I left the house, in the car while I'm driving, out loud.
Yeah.
And then that always got the day started, you know, on a positive note. And then on the way home, same thing.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of,
Father, forgive me for all of it.
Not quite
For the
that.
win.
It was more like,
Okay.
it was more like,
please help me.
let my
from
day go
guilt.
well, and then I do my job,
Mhm.
you know, efficiently and correctly, and that I get there safely on the road, and I
Mhm.
keep my comments to myself about other drivers, and you know.
That was me coming home from seminary, because it took me an hour to get home. And that's where I would have my conversations a lot of times, because I was in the solitude of my truck, and I was driving through the farms, and it was just a place of peace to be able to do that. And I can do that for the most part on Old Annapolis Road now.
Conversely, in my car, we're not usually saying prayers or anything. We are rocking out to some praise music. We
True.
love us some Casting Crowns or some Jeremy Camp or Toby Mac when it's just Delaney and I. We are all about singing at the top of our lungs, so
Yeah.
there's not really that peaceful, quiet time, but I still feel like we're worshiping and praising.
Absolutely, absolutely.
But, so, daily living, service, and
Yep.
justice. Anything on that one? Anything else on that one? Are we good? Moving on to the next one? Learning and using the art and skills of speaking the truth in love and discerning together the gospel's meaning for life.
I think that one's a little more harder for some people.
I think it's hard for everybody.
Yeah, I mean, it's sometimes hard for me where, you know, you're like, I want to love you, I want to care for you. You need to figure out more how you love God so that I can do that, as opposed to,
I need you to do some work so that I can love
you know what I'm
some more.
saying?
But yeah, that, I mean, well, right, I'll try to share this in a way that doesn't, anyway, so I had a really good pinnacle moment, you know, like I felt really good about, mountaintop moment, yeah. And,
Is that kind of like a transfiguration?
no, it was not like transfiguration.
Or a transformation?
But are you?
I didn't go there yet.
You didn't go there yet. Okay, so, you know, I was feeling really good about the way I handled something, it worked out well for that situation, counseling kind of thing. And I was driving somewhere, got to where I was going, and like a slap of truth, there was, I ran right into a person who was like, the ultimate test of my patience and grace, and I was like, oh, okay, so that's where, you know, I obviously still need some work, but, you know, that truth and discerning, they're like, it's always still continuing.
You're still growing.
Yeah.
It's a continual thing. It's something that we do throughout life, and you figure out new ways to how to be neighbor to those who we are, you know, communing with.
Yeah, we all have work to do on it. And then lastly, anything else on that one?
No.
Connecting their baptismal vocation and their specific callings in daily life. So there's that baptismal vocation word again.
Right. So I think for me, I didn't really do this at my work. You know, I mean, people knew that I had faith. People knew that I would, you know, but when I shared that I was, you know, gonna start seminary, then I had a whole different group of people coming in and just, hey, can we talk about this? Can we talk about
You
that?
became the chaplain.
You know,
And you said, hey, I don't have the degree yet.
Here's
Hang
your
on."
warning.
Here's your warning.
But it allowed me to see something that maybe I should have been doing a lot sooner.
Well, there's always, you know, people don't put out there when they're having issues usually. You know, they keep it to themselves, and you may not know that there's somebody who needs to talk. And it's tough to pick up those cues. I'm terrible at that.
Yeah,
I'm
same.
awful. And that's something, you know, I need to be more aware of as well.
Right, but then there's also the other people who, you know, like, don't want you to talk. They just want you to sit there and listen. And sometimes that's hard and I know it is for you.
I know, I'm terrible with that.
Just, you know, Sue tells me all the time, I don't want you to fix it, I just want you to listen. And I need to,
Sometimes that's a good first question. Do you just want me to listen to this, or do you want help?
It depends on how you phrase that, because do you want me to just listen? That might also be, get you pushed over it as
Well,
well.
I will say Amy and I have gotten to the point now where we know when we're venting. And, you know, unless you have a really bad day and you don't want to listen to the venting, it's like, okay, I know what this is.
Get it out.
And it goes both ways.
Yeah. I gotta do better at that. I really need to work on that.
Well, that's something we can all work out together.
That's right.
All right, so that was that part. And
That
then
was education in Christian faith for
Almost
our
through page
baptismal vocation.
Right, it's only been 30 minutes. We are a third of the way through page 1.
But that's okay.
That's okay. So they're talking about, to me, this statement talked about how you educate and increase your faith through learning. And then there was the education, as Russ said, like in the secular world.
Right.
The,
That's the word I was looking for.
Secular. And I think that's the bigger challenge nowadays, really, is the secular world being in the faith world, right? You know, I think there's a lot of tension there.
yeah.
And I believe, you know, kids feel it at school and whatnot, and people probably at work. I mean, I don't like that. I don't agree with whatever
We'll talk about
religion.
politics or religion.
Right. You know, and I think maybe if we had a little more conversation about, and not necessarily the mechanics of religion, but, you know, how your faith works for you, and maybe hear someone else tell you how their faith works for them, then we could probably get to, or hopefully get to that point where we can have those hard discussions that we talked about last week, to be able to have okay, I'm gonna hear your point of view, and I'm gonna listen to you, and I still may not agree with you when I'm done, but we've heard each other, and I think that's a big part of education.
So maybe we'll have some sort of listening exercises other than the sermon. That was your, no, never mind. Anyway, moving on.
I didn't get to
Next,
myself.
I know you have, I was trying to give you,
Well, you
we're running out of
know,
time
God
here.
said, listen to him and do as he says.
Okay,
So that's what we're trying to do. Maybe, you know, God is telling us, I haven't read it yet, so.
he can't
No,
preview
not
the
even
sermon
like a
because he hasn't
smidge of
written it
a-
yet. Oh, okay.
You got time.
You got time. It's only Thursday, right?
Right.
All right.
So,
Anyway.
and again, that's, for me, sometimes, I could struggle all week trying to work through the lessons, trying to work through other things that I've read or, you know, discerned about it. And I could sit there and I go, and then, like, Sue will attest, you know, I'll get up Saturday morning and I'll be like, hey, I'm done. And it, you know, to me, that's just like you said, how the Spirit works within me to figure out the right words. And hopefully they are the words that you all are wanting to hear,
Or needing to hear.
needing to hear too. Yeah.
Sometimes we don't want to hear it. Sometimes.
Very true.
True.
But, you know,
Maybe
I
I'll
mean,
give a lot of law this week.
Or maybe sometimes you want to hear it for 9.5 minutes, but not 15.
I haven't gone 15
I
in
know,
a long time.
I'm just kidding. I'm not kidding about that, but I'm
Saying,
general.
you reeled it back in, you're fine, you're
Yeah,
fine.
I'm between 10 and 12. I'm good.
Yeah.
And he records it, so we know exactly.
That's right.
11 minutes, I start thinking about lists of things I gotta do, you know.
Yeah, okay, I'll have to put that timer up in the pulpit there, Russ.
Yeah, we'll start playing, you know, we'll have Jeff play some, you know, leading out music.
Yeah.
Just start with
We
the
need the Sandman.
So Tricia will have the hook up in the loft and I'm just,
just, you're like.
time for you to be done.
Yeah,
But,
Anyway.
well.
so do we wanna,
are
let's
at
not,
1:05, so I
Yeah,
don't know if
let's-
we wanna delve into,
let's do education for vocation in the world. We'll start that next week.
okay,
Okay?
that sounds
Did
good.
we have any comments today?
We have quite a few people watching, we had up to 10, now with our banter we're down to 7, but yes, we.
Drove them away, and
We had people watching, but I did not have any comments yet, so, take some time maybe this week and read the shorter versions, or if
Yeah.
you're intrigued, read the longer one. We've got some more snow coming up, so what else are you gonna do, right?
and it does have some footnotes on the different things in the summary that'll direct you to what page to turn to in the bigger one,
Right.
which I used on a few of these things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
my,
To get a little more in depth.
yeah, I only read pages 21 and 22. To be honest,
See what I gotta work with here?
I only read those pages because they were the ones with the guidelines for the Ministry of Faith Formation. It's like, here's what they want congregations to do, and I was like, well, that's good. I should know what those are. So I printed those out, but the other ones I just kind of skimmed. But these 2 pages,
Okay, we'll see you
So
Sunday morning at 9:25.
yes. And next week we'll be back at regular time.
Next week we'll be back at noon. Yep. So
Mhm.
thanks for being there.
See ya.